Yeah, let's talk about it. This Sunday, NBC and Peacock. It is Super Bowl 60, Levi Stadium, Santa Clara, California. 6:30 Eastern Time is the start of the broadcast. I don't know what arbitrary number they actually put on kickoff, probably 6:43 and a half or something like that. But it is the 16-3 Seattle Seahawks. They're a 4.5 point favorite against the 17-3 New England Patriots. The over under, Sean, in this one is 45.5. We'll make the actual prediction here in a minute, but we'll take a couple of steps to get there. When both of the conference championship games went final, so we knew it was the Patriots, we knew it was Seattle. Your first thought was blank would win.
Seattle by 1,000,000.
Okay.
I think I even said those words out as soon as soon as the whistle went. I was like, God, Seattle by 1,000,000. I literally I did not like what I saw in one game, and I was impressed by what I saw in the other, and it just felt bad. So that was the initial reaction.
Yeah, that was kind of mine. I don't know if I put the actual million marker on it, but I was just like, Seattle's going to crush them. And a friend of mine in one of the many group chats that I'm in said doubting the Patriots at this point seems almost foolish, and he's probably right. Just the way this season has played out, it is probably foolish to give New England basically no chance. And certainly, I'm not. And we'll get there, but I'm not saying that New England doesn't have a chance of winning this game. But my first thought exactly was Seattle's going to crush them. They're just that much better, and it has nothing to do with New England having the quote unquote easy road. Because look, I defended them multiple times this year in that they don't get to pick their road. I defended the Eagles. I think it was 2 years ago when people were trying to call out, their lack of a hard schedule. And I'm like, look, the NFL teams don't pick who they play. You don't get to sit there and handpick your schedule. So it's not their fault that they got an easy draw. They got to play. They got to play. They didn't break Bo Nix's ankle. It just, that's just how it goes. And again, look back at, as much as I hate it, the 2018 Eagles, they lost their starting quarterback. So they had one of the harder, where you could have argued that that the Patriots or any of the teams that played Philly in that postseason going into those games, look how easy they got it. They're playing Nick Foles and the Eagles. Well, you got to play the game, So yeah, but my first thought, man, is I was just like, my God, this has the potential to just be an absolute snoozer, which would suck for the NFL. Not that the NFL cares, because everybody and their mother is going to watch this.
Right,
game.
They've already cast the checks at that point.
But last year was a stinker for most of the country. It was a stinker of a Super Bowl because it wasn't close. It was a whooping. I turned it off because it was second quarter was DeJean's interception, right?
Yeah.
That was the point I turned it off. I put it on the second TV just so I would know when the halftime show was starting, so I could put the halftime show on the big TV. And then once that was done, I was watching Disney movies. I'm not watching this. I've already seen this.
The only thing fortunate for the NFL in a game that one-sided was that it was the Chiefs getting whipped. That it was at least you were watching a giant fall. And it was,
and it was a
maybe
fan base in Philadelphia that it is a large fan base. If it would have been, if it would have been a smaller NFL or NFC team that was doing, that was doing that, the ratings would have been hurt as well, because it's nobody gives a shit if the Cardinals are beating up on the Chiefs. Philly fans were obviously locked in. So
if it was Buccaneers Texans, right? And Baker Mayfield was just shoving it to the Texans defense.
Yeah, people were out after the halftime show.
Yeah, they might have had the TV on, but no one would have been watching.
Yeah, it would have been background noise at that point. But yeah, it's that I think we hit the initial thoughts appropriately.
Sure.
Shifting this, we've done this over the years with the Super Bowl. We'll let the pattern repeat. Um, Talking about the Patriots and if they stand a chance, let's evaluate that portion of it, Sean. The Patriots will win Super Bowl 60 if what?
Well, I'm gonna have to remember what I wrote because I had typed in on my image here on my phone what I was gonna say, and apparently it never saved. So we're gonna just roll with what we think we said. Um, but the Patriots will win this game if they can force Sam Darnold to make the mistakes he's made in the past. If they can somehow disrupt, now it's easier said than done against that offensive line, but if you can get to Sam Darnold early and force him to make mistakes or disguise some coverages that force him, and if he makes a mistake early, that would be even bigger. Like
Yeah,
if it's a first quarter pick, doesn't even have to be a pick six, sack fumble, force him into a weird ladder, something. So basically, what you did to Steedham. If you can get him to make a grueling error like that and get inside his own head and humanize him, because right now he's playing way above the level of what I would call human. And we probably just saw the best game of his career in that
for
game
sure.
against the Rams.
Yeah.
Poised, just looked fantastic. If you can stop that, that's how you win.
Yeah, a couple of stats here. Patriots key to the games are 11-2 when forcing one or more turnovers this season, tied for fourth in the NFL. The Seahawks have turned the ball over 27 times, second most in the NFL. Patriots are 13-2 when averaging more than 5 yards on first down plays this year. That is second best in the NFL. The Patriots are 11-2 when sacking the quarterback less than 3 times this season, best in the NFL. So that's kind of a surprising stat. If they're not getting to the quarterback, they're still winning games. Patriots also undefeated when the opposing team converts less than 55% of its red zone chances into touchdowns this season. That is best in the NFL. So I think, if there's a key element in 3 of those 4 points about the New England Patriots, it's the defense. If the defense can keep the Seattle Seahawks in check, they're going to have a chance and they can win this football game. I think another big thing is Drake May. You have a young guy who at times has made some really poor decisions. They need him to not make those. If you're kind of bottled up in the backfield, take the sack. It's okay. If you need to just get rid of the ball, get rid of the ball. It's okay. Don't try to be the hero. Just be the quarterback. But I think really the Patriots will win if their defense can hold the Seattle Seahawks in check a bit. Sean, on the other side, the Seattle Seahawks will win the Super Bowl if what?
Well, it's kind of split sides for me because the Seattle Seahawks, to me, looking at this game, both like through the scope of what I've seen over the last few weeks and just on paper, I feel like the Seahawks will win if they simply successfully execute their game plan. Like if they come in the way they have over the last several weeks and they can run the ball the way they want to run the ball and they can, use that to Sam Darnold's advantage, force turn, like the usual Seattle Seahawks football. If they can play Seahawks football, I think they win. And on the flip side, it's kind of they win if they can force New England out of its game plan, because you were talking about like when you were, Seattle, like the initial reactions, how, like it looks like Seattle should kill them. And I think it's just because on paper, you look at New England and it doesn't look like they bring a lot to the table. But what they did in that Denver game was there's a lot of shifty coaching moves that Vrabel does. Late substitutions, The way he trots guys on, he forces the other team into bad clock management situations. I was watching the Steedham the big turnover right in the game, and on that play, he delayed his substitution, so the Denver had to delay theirs. And by the time Steedham was setting up to square that ball, and by the time the umpire was off the ball, Steedham had 5 seconds to snap that ball. So he was already under duress and had no time to read anything, and it forced him into a mistake. And I think they've done that a lot this year. A lot of just like sleight of hand stuff between plays to make give themselves a little bit of an edge. And so you kind of got to force them out of that by playing your game and putting them on edge. And so I think as long as the game plan goes Seattle's way, I think they have it.
Yeah, some keys to the game for the Seahawks. They're undefeated versus top 10 pass defenses this year. The Patriots are the 9th best passing defense. Seattle 14-1 when allowing less than 50% of third down conversion opportunities. That was best in the NFL. 4-1 when rushing less than 25 times this season, best in the NFL, and 10-1 when intercepting at least one pass this season, also best in the NFL. Kind of similar to the Patriots. I think one of the biggest keys, and they'll win if Seattle's defense does their job. These are two teams that can play very good offensively. They can also play very poorly offensively. But one constant with both these teams, pretty much from start to finish this year, has been the play on the defensive side of the ball. And Seattle, like, that's going to be the thing. Again, you have a second-year quarterback, a first-year head coach, a first-year in this team head coach. You have guys who have never been this deep in the postseason before on the opposite side of the ball. So if your defense can continue to do what it does in a stadium that they play in regularly, it is definitely something that they can take advantage of and get ahead of New England and win the game. Now on the other hand, Sean, the Patriots will lose the Super Bowl if what?
The Patriots will lose the Super Bowl if they can't run between the tackles. It's been a game plan by design. Both Stevenson and Henderson have excellent numbers between the tackles. Drake May has a lot of rushing yards between the tackles, and they've done a really great job at controlling that part of and creating lanes where they want them and forcing teams to stay inside, which essentially loosens up the passing game on the outside for Drake May and gives him the ability to kind of scramble out if need be, and there's more room to hit the corners. So they get a lot of extra yards even on plays after that by setting it up with those middle of the field runs. It's tough sledding against the Seahawks, but if they can do that, they would be fine. But if they can't, I think a lot of it falls on a young quarterback, and I think it's too much.
Yeah, I think the Patriots lose this game if their playmakers don't make plays. Their defense can do as much as they can, but when you're looking across the field at one of the few defenses that's probably better than you, and you're not making the plays, you're not doing anything to try to break that opposing defense, you're going to be in trouble. Your defense can only get you so far. You have to have guys step up. You have good running backs. You have Stephon Diggs, who loves to run his mouth about the fact that he's there and the Bills aren't, stuff like that. And you have a young quarterback that,
you could have just stopped it, run his mouth.
Well, there's that. But you have a young quarterback that, doesn't really know with this coaching staff really how to lose. So you need to kind of go in with that confidence and get the job done. And if their playmakers can't do that, the defensive game will not be enough, because eventually Seattle is going to break through, and their defense or their offense is going to get points on the board. But yeah, if your offense can't keep up at all, you're going to be in big trouble. Sean, the Seattle Seahawks will lose Super Bowl 60 if what?
Well, I mean, obviously, if things go wrong, but I would say that the big one for me that just jumped off the page, and it's kind of general because I'm not going to say who they're containing, but if the Seahawks are unable to contain, and by contain I mean that line of scrimmage between the tackles, you got to limit the running game on first and second down, but also contain Drake May getting out of there. Like if you can control the pocket on your defensive side of the ball, you're in really great shape. If they can't, if they give New England the big yardage on first and second down, setting up third and shorts, if they give Drake May lanes to the outside, because I watched it against Denver, like when Drake May, he knows where that pylon is, and he's very quick to get outside and knows exactly what path to take. And the reason he has that is because linebackers can't commit to that, to that zone because they have to be ready for the run. So if you if you can't contain, it makes it too easy for the Patriots to come in and steal one from you.
Yeah, to me, the Seahawks will lose if they give up more points than they scored. No,
I think one of these teams has a great chance to win this game.
That's true. Yeah. Look, it's been kind of a theme with me and waiting for it to happen, and it hasn't happened yet. But the Seahawks will lose if bad Sam Darnold shows up. Because again, I've referred to it, when one of the members of our panel that isn't with us tonight wanted to very early this season put Sam Darnold in the top 12 quarterbacks in the NFL, which I'm not even 100% sure that he is. He's probably there now. But the thing I kept going back to is like, man, I saw what this dude did in the last two games he played last year for Minnesota. And it's been my argument as to why I still don't think Minnesota made the wrong choice in sticking with JJ McCarthy at a much lower amount of money and seeing what you have in the kid, because your closing statement, if you think of the NFL season like a trial in court, that closing statement by Sam Darnold Esquire was one of the worst closing statements you could have. He was terrible in week 18 and round one of the postseason last year. So if that guy shows up to Santa Clara, I don't know that there's enough that Seattle can do around him to be able to get themselves back in this game.
I was ironically talking to a Vikings fan out about who was going off on like the opposite take you just took, who was just angry that Sam Darnold, like, look how good he is.
I mean, I get it.
Like how in the world, and I tried to talk him off the ledge. I'm like, well, you guys made the choice for you. And they're like, well, what happens if we can't get the most out of this guy? I'm like, well, maybe.
My friend.
When I told him, I said, I mean, I've never thought of it, but I'm like, maybe it's your coaching at that point. Like if you couldn't get the most out of Sam Darnold in the games that mattered, and then you have another guy and you can't get get him to elevate his game, you start to question. You're like, well, can we just not get the best out of quarterbacks? Like, is that where we're at? But yeah, I'm with you. I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to make a choice, because if you bring Sam Darnold back, it's not to back up JJ McCarthy, because you're going to tag him and you're going to pay him, top 5 money. You're going to play him. I think fans are wary only because McCarthy was coming off the injury. So, maybe tagging would have been the right choice, but who knows?
Yeah. And I think that the easiest thing to do is to look back in hindsight. Again, like, now granted, it certainly did not happen, but if Brian Kelly, leaves Notre Dame, Notre Dame didn't fire him. So it's a little bit of a family, but we can make the argument, maybe Notre Dame didn't do enough to keep him there. Maybe Notre Dame didn't put enough resources behind him, hypothetically, to make him not want to go to the SEC, right? And he goes down there, and we're happy that he's gone, because he can never win the big one. Then he goes down to LSU and wins a national title in year one. It's like, oh man, we should have done more to keep this guy, right? Like, again, that's the hindsight play.
Every mistake every decision you make that's close like that could easily be the wrong decision.
Right.
right?
Right. Washington Capitals.
Sometimes Jalen Rager looks better than Justin Jefferson.
Like
To who, I'm not sure. But
the Washington Capitals, they let Barry Trotz walk the summer after winning the Stanley Cup because he wanted to be involved more in like being like an active coach, but also a GM. And the Caps didn't want that. So they let him walk. He goes to Nashville, or he goes to the Islanders, like turns that franchise around a bit. They didn't win anything. Now he's the GM in Nashville. That team has only gotten worse since he's been GM, and he is now stepping down as GM. So like initially Caps fans were like, how could we be so stupid to let this guy walk away? Now, granted, the Todd Reardon experiment was terrible, and we don't want to talk about that. But like in hindsight, maybe not allowing him to be GM was maybe a good choice. So yeah, everything gets skewed one way or the next, depending how it plays out. So I get Vikings fans' frustration.
But the big thing for Sam Darnold is, as good as he's looked in this playoff run, he's not the reason they're here.
No.
So
he's on a better team. Let's also remember that.
I'm not going to take any away from Minnesota. As bad as that QB situation was, Minnesota, did they finish one game over 500 or one game on? I think they were over.
They were over.
I feel like they were 9-8.
Yeah, they finished.
They had a better record than the winner of the South, right? So that is not an easy division. You had
9-8. Every team in the North
you had a bumbling Lions team
above 500.
And you had two playoff teams. You had three very competitive teams, and you finished 9-8 in a division. You started like three different quarterbacks.
The Vikings finished 8th in the NFC in terms of win-loss. Right.
So I'm not saying it's a bad team.
Actually, 7th because that looking at ESPN's conference standings, that includes 8 and 9 Carolina. So yeah, the Vikings finished 7th in win-loss in the NFC.
Record. So I'm not going to take away and say the Vikings are terrible, but I can tell you this: as good as that defense is, it is not Seattle's defense, and as good as that offensive line is at times, it is not Seattle's offensive line, right? And we have Justin Jefferson. I mean, they have Jackson Smith and Jigba. Like they have one, right? Like there is nothing that Minnesota brings to the table, minus maybe Jefferson over in Jigba if you're going to sit on that throne. And you could argue they have a better tight end situation. Hawkinson, if he ever stays healthy, sure, I'll give you that. But nowhere else on the field are you better. So like Sam Darnold, like, yeah, he looks way better, but he's also in a way better situation, right? Like, you have Aaron Jones, he has Kenneth Walker, same guy, except his is younger now. So it's like, you got a two-headed monster. You have all the same things. So it worked out for Sam Darnold. It doesn't mean it would have worked out for you. So Minnesota fans, just calm down. But Sam Darnold, congratulations.
Absolutely.
On the upgrade.
Absolutely. Devin says Seattle will lose if they let the Patriots have successful running receptions. Yes, I think like running backs out of the backfield.
Running backs catching the ball.
That's how I'm reading it.
Runs, like if you don't tackle. I mean, either one.
Either way. Yeah.
If you don't tackle Butte, he's going to run right past you.
Yeah, I definitely take that as like running backs out of the backfield. But yeah, either way, if you're not making plays on the defensive side of the ball, you're going to be in trouble. A couple more notes on the matchup itself before we get to our official predictions. Patriots throwing the ball just 48.1% of the time this season. That is the 5th lowest in the NFL. Seattle has allowed just 5.5 yards per drop back in the NFL. That is the second best in the National Football League. Patriots are 11-2 when forcing one or more turnovers. Seattle has turned the ball over 27 times this year.
You say they're 1-2 when
11-2. Sorry, 11-2 when forcing one or more turnovers.
I was like, how's that make any sense?
Seattle's running backs have averaged just 3.7 targets per game. That's the second lowest in the NFL. Patriots have allowed just 4.8 receptions per game to running backs. That is the 5th highest. Seattle has been successful on 34.7% of pass attempts when their quarterback was under pressure. Patriots have pressured opposing quarterbacks on just 20.9% of passing plays. So again, yeah, it's
pass rush is not New England's strength.
No. So they're doing all of their work away from the
pass rush. Which is good for Sam Darnold.
Which is good for Sam Darnold, may also be good for New England. And last one, Seattle has been successful on 51.6% of pass attempts against a base rush. That is 4th best in the NFL. The Patriots have pressured opposing quarterbacks 20.3% with a base rush this year. So There's definitely potential there for Seattle to make plays against this defense. We'll see if they can do it. 1 minute 52 left in the third period. Flyers have regained a lead. They are up 3-2.
Hey, there you go, guys.
Capitals trying to tie it here before the end of the
Probably
game.
better that I'm
Sean,
not watching it. Every time I turn them on, it's horrendous.
can you flip it on for me, please? All right, Sean. Let's actually get to the predictions again. Seattle is a 4.5 point favorite. You're over under 45.5. What happens this Sunday?
I don't know if Vegas knows something. I think 4.5 feels incredibly low. I don't know if they're trying to convince money on New England. I'm not really sure what the choice there is. But I mean, I'm going to go with where my gut and my head, like my gut and my head, are on the same side of this line, and I'm going to say that Seattle not only finds a way to win, but finds a way to win by more than 4.5. I'm not saying it's going to be like last year. I don't think that's the case, and you know, if they jump out to, if at any point they have a 10 or a 14-point lead, they will be very happy to start running the ball and like just ease out of it and not try to like put a dagger in anybody and throw heavy balls downfield. But yeah, I just, you know, I Vrabel's done a great job of out coaching, you know, some situations, especially on this playoff run, and Drake May's looked fantastic. But to be honest, and I said it going into the playoffs, I don't know what Drake May looks like against top defenses. And he's played a couple, and while the Patriots have found ways to win, it has not been Drake May looking great while doing it. And I don't think he gets the opportunity to look great. I think this defense is going to rattle him. And if they get it done in the running game, like I said, they run between the tackles well, they got a shot. But I think odds are Seattle wins this substantially.
Yeah, I think New England has a chance to keep this thing close for 2.5, 3/4 of this game, but I think ultimately the better team is going to take over in the later moments.
And I'm going to take the under, by the way, at 45.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think the under is the play. I think defense is the name of the game with both these teams. I don't think we're going to see a very high scoring matchup. So I have Seattle winning absolutely. And at 4.5, that does feel tight. Like if this was 6.5, 7, like I would take the Patriots to cover, but I think this is just small enough that Seattle is going to get over that 4.5 mark. They are just the better team, and at the end of the day, the better team is going to win. Devin has Seahawks in the over, but the Seahawks will not win the coin toss at the beginning of the game. We'll talk about that and some of the other prop bets.
When we try to lock things up, Devin, I'll still give you hope on that over. But I know I took the under, but I'll give you hope on it with my lock it up.
Yeah, but yeah, it's going to be Seattle. I really do think it's going to be Seattle. Small window of opportunity for the Patriots, but again, I'm not giving them zero chance, but I'd say probably less than about 20% chance. So sorry, Patriots fans who are listening.